So for this half of the clip, we're gonna go over installing the truck subframe, running the copper cable, and mounting the hydraulic unit. Some of the supplies and tools you're gonna need. All right here, supplies, your brackets, your clamps, copper cable, your hardware. Tools you're gonna need, mini electric impact is the easiest one to use. Use a pilot drill, and then a 1/2 inch step drill, and then this goes up to 3/4, but you're only gonna go up to 9/16 with this. This makes it a lot easier, especially on the wrist. I use some oil for it. Small hammer for just center punching. A marker just to mark, your holes and everything like that. Some kind of crimping tool for your ring terminals. You can use a spike as well. It's easier on the other side towards the battery. A couple hammers. You need a 15/16 socket, 3/4 inch socket. Of course, your air impact. Regular socket set. Gonna end up using a 9/16 in that. Cork gun with some cork in it, silicone. Zip ties, cutting pliers, and obviously your safety glasses and gloves. And it's basically everything you need, of course, in a tape measure as well. So it's basically everything you're going to need to do this half of the install. Like I said, dropping the subframe in, marking the holes, and fastening everything down, running the cable. So that's for this half. So when installing the truck subframe, obviously first you're going to want to take the tailgate off the truck, put the truck up on the lift. I just lift it just till its tires are off the ground. What you want to do is you want to center it, widthwise, of course. What I do is I just, count the rails. This is an 04 F250 short bed. So I just, so for the end side towards the tailgate, it's 11 ribs. In the front, it's like 10. But yeah, besides that, where you want to have it sit off the end, you want this angle here to be pretty much flush to the end of the actual truck bed. You can go in maybe an inch or so, no more than that. It basically needs to be, the hinge point is the most important part in placement, not so much the back. The back you don't want to reference off, or the front. You want to reference off the end of the truck bed. So like I said, you basically just want this angle flush to the end of the truck bed itself, and then just center it, and that's exactly where you want to keep it. So here we're going to go over how to find holes in the frame of your truck to bolt your brackets to. Usually you want one, obviously close to the front, and then one more towards the rear. So as we can see here, I don't want to go with this hole here. You want to go with a hole that you can fit a 5/8 bolt through. And you can get a nut on the other side. Back here, we're gonna go with this one. So how to mark it? Grab your bracket here. Place it over the hole that you're gonna use. Hold it, the bracket flush to the bottom of the truck bed. And then, you just mark your hole where you're gonna put it, like right there. I'll show you after I mark it when I have two hands here.
And then after that, you're gonna mark where the bracket ends right here on the bottom of the truck bed. I'm gonna mark a mark right here. And this is gonna be a pilot reference to drill from the top of the bed. I'll show you that in the next step. So right now you're just gonna mark the hole on the bracket, and then you're gonna punch the hole in it. I'll show you in the next clip how that's gonna look like. So as you can see, I just marked the hole on the bracket, and right here you can see I marked the pilot reference hole on the truck bed. All right, so as you can see, I have the bracket fast, finger, or everything you want finger tightened. Nothing bolted immediately. That's all done after. But yeah, so this is finger tight on the chassis itself. You see the pilot hole? That's the reference hole right here. And I'll show you what we do after that. But yeah, so I marked the hole. You drill or punch a 11/16 hole, so you can put a 5/8 bolt through. You put the washer, lock washer, and nut on the other side, on the inside of the chassis, mainly because these are oval holes. And also what I do is I label every bracket. So this says PA for passenger side, RR for rear, and same on the other side. Sometimes it's easier. Passenger side is easier to get to for the rear. Driver side is a bit more difficult. I mean, if you could take the spare tire out, it makes it a lot easier. But yeah, on the front side, cab side, the hole in the chassis is pretty shallow. It's close to a supporting member, so I have to run the bolt the other way. So you see the washers on the other side, and the lock washer and fine thread on this side. Sometimes it's easier to run the nut through the fine thread bolt first before you put in the chassis, to make sure it spins on there pretty easily. But yeah, here you can see that reference hole there. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just placing the brackets on the frame, and I'm not gonna have them straight right now. I'm gonna have them over the side, so that when we come from the top of the bed, we could drill a hole through and not hit the bracket. So that's why I have them placed over the side. Once I drill the hole through, I'll show you how they look with the bolt through. So here I got a sample bracket, just to take a look at the top here, where the bolt hole is gonna go through. And here is that pilot hole. This is, like I said, this is a reference hole. So you picture this bracket, it's probably about here under the truck. So you marked it here, so you just take your tape measure, and you can see, you want to get it center. It's about 2.5 inches on center from the end. So what you want to do is measure 2.5 from the reference hole here. So you're going to want to mark right there, and that's where you're going to drill your hole. So I made my hole. I use a pilot and then a 1/2 inch step drill. It is a 1/2 inch bolt, but I like to ream it out a little more on the edges, so you can get a little more clearance. So you place your bracket like this, match up the hole. you know, depending on whether you have a bed liner or not, you're gonna need a longer bolt. I believe this is a 3-inch, 3-inch half-inch bolt. If you don't have a bed liner, the neck may be a little bit too long. So if you don't have a bed liner, you're probably gonna wanna run a 2.5-inch bolt. But since I got the bed liner here, this is a 3-inch bolt. So sometimes you'll have to hammer in. But like I said, I like to make some clearance, so I ream the hole out pretty big. So like a 9/16 hole, and you just place the bolt through. So you can see here, there's a hole, the bolt in the frame. And so I just just let it fall through like that, and then just add your flat washer and your lock nut, and you'll see what that looks like. And that's basically how you bolt the bracket and clamp all the way through the bed. You know, when you air impact, you'll see that everything comes together more tightly. You have more thread past the nylon nut. You have your holes drilled through the bed on all 4 brackets. What you do is you place a bracket where you want it, you know, line up the hole, and then you just make a mark for the cross bolt going into the frame. Now you do this on every bracket, and then you center punch it, and then drill a 9/16 hole through the actual truck frame, subframe, so that these brackets bolt directly to the truck frame. So when drilling these holes for the mounts, brackets, I stand up the frame vertically so that you can drill down. It makes it a lot easier. So like I said, I run a pilot first, then I run the half-inch step all the way through, and then I just run the 3/4 step drill just to clear it out a little more. You only need to ream it out enough so that you can test and see that the bolt slides in easy. So before you fasten everything down, after you have all the brackets and clamps finger tight bolted to the frame, you want to position your hydraulic unit so that it doesn't run into the clamp here, and you want to bolt on your hydraulic unit before you impact everything as well. You know, make sure everything connects right. So first you gotta bolt this bracket to the valve body from underneath with the small bolts, and lock washers and flat washers, and then you bolt it to the truck frame like so. So now that you have all the brackets bolted to the subframe, you can now start to impact everything. First with the hydraulic unit bracket here, then all the vertical bolts going down through the bed frame, and then after that the side bolts, cross bolts going through here, and then after that the brackets to the chassis of the truck. So you can see here everything impacted. That's what it looks like from the bottom, bolted directly to the chassis.
So now we're at the part where we run a number 2 copper cable. You gotta strip the end here and crimp ring terminal. So what you use is one of these. This is a pipe cutter. This will cut the insulation. And I just use a razor blade to slice it and then rip it off. You can use like a legitimate crimping tool for this, but I'm just using a vise and pliers here. On the other side towards the battery, I just use a spike like this and just hammer a spike into it. So when you run your copper cable, you gotta make a hole in the bed of the frame, bed of the truck bed. So when you're about to run your copper cable, you gotta make a hole in the bed, and you want to make sure you don't hit the gas lines or anything like that. So you gotta know where you're drilling here. Like I said, I just run the step drill, 1/2-inch step drill. You're going to be bolting to positive on the motor solenoid where the nut is already loose, and obviously this one already has a power cable going to the motor. So yeah, you're going to be bolting it through here and then snaking it through. It's a 1/2-inch socket for this nut here, but yeah, you want to make sure the lock washer is on top of the ring terminal. Just want to tighten it snug, just like that. You don't want to forget to silicone this cable going through on the top and on the bottom. That'll prevent vibration from shearing this cable over time from driving. So here I got the copper cable run through the engine bay. Just goes direct to the power positive. So here I got the power cable running through the engine bay. Just goes on the positive of the battery terminal. So for this part of the install, we're going to be basically hooking up the hydraulics. So some supplies you're going to need: pipe dope, zip ties, cutting pliers, hammer, and 11/16 wrench, 5/8 wrench. Supplies, you know, your cotters, your pins. This is the base pin. This 12-inch pin and 11-inch pin. And then you got your hinge pins here. And then you got your hoses and your elbows. Hydraulic unit is hooked up and your frame is bolted in. Now is hooking up the scissor hoist here. This is the way it's assembled. You want to make sure that it is sitting the right way so that it hinges properly. Basically with the gusseted part of the hoist, scissor hoist, towards the truck bed, and then the bare side on the bottom of the body. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pin the 2 bottom flats on each side to these ears, along with the base of the cylinder, with a 12-inch long 1-inch pin. After that, we're gonna pipe dope and wrench the hoses to the fittings, these elbows here. And then from there, we're gonna run it through the frame, zip tie it to the frame, and put the elbows in
the swivel elbows and connect the hoses. You want to make sure you have the hoses hooked up correctly. And go over that after I have this all plumbed up for you guys. Now, in the manual that you get, there's a diagram on the hydraulic unit. You're going to see here specifically in this text, port B is up for lift, and that's, you want to connect that to the base of the cylinder. So you're going to see this is port B, and you want to run it, as you can see here, to the base of the cylinder. That's so that you get your maximum PSI out of the unit for lift, because this is a double acting cylinder and a power up and power down hydraulic unit. So you're going to see here port A is for down at the top of the cylinder. So this is the top of the cylinder. Just got this running to port B, which is port A, which is on this side. I like to plumb the hoses down if you can. This is so that, if you have it going up, if you have it at the right angle, it may be fine. It just reduces the chance of chafing, of hitting the bottom of the body. But yep, you want to make sure you use flat washers, and you want to pipe dope these hoses here. These are swivel fittings, so you don't have to worry about that. The hose is a 5/8 wrench. The swivel is at 11/16, both of these. So you're going to want to fill up the hydraulic unit, before you put the body in. Just fill it up pretty much all the way, or 80% of the way. And then what you want to do is, one thing I recommend is zip tying this disconnect for your remote in a way where it's not going to move, because obviously, because this is metal, if it touches a solenoid or the power post, it'll arc. So you want to zip tie this disconnect so that it's very much stationary. So when you're about to put the body in, you're going to want to lift the scissors up in some sort of fashion like this. When you put the body in, you want it at an angle, almost at the angle at where you think you'd have it fully lifted, basically. So yeah, basically like a 50-degree angle or so. And the way to do that is with this remote, with the cord coming into the remote, the button closest to the cord is the up button. So when you press this button, it lifts, and then vice versa for the down. So having the scissor hoist up like this makes it a lot easier to put that main pin underneath the floor of the dump body. Now that you've got the body pinned to the hinge point, it's time to hook up the scissor hoist to the bottom of the body. Now, I never rely on just the hoist. I always end up using 2 angle members
for safety support. Better to be safe than sorry, just in case. Mainly because this is the point where there's no hydraulic pressure, so this body is just free in the air from the hoist. So first thing I do, I prop up the bottom of the scissor hoist with the 2x4 just to help with lifting the scissors up to the body, lining the holes up. I always grab from the ram to lift the hoist, the cylinder up, and to align the scissor holes to the ears on the bottom of the frame. So to do this part, the way you're gonna do it is you're gonna take your 11-inch pin, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna insert it first through both holes, all the way through, like this. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna lift one scissor at a time. You're gonna put one scissor on the end, you're gonna washer it and cotter it, and then you're gonna move the pin over and do the same for the other side. I'll show you what that looks like. Once you have your dump body operating, the next step is to bolt on the restraint chains. You're gonna need 11/16 socket, 5/8 socket, and the same for the wrenches. Now these have designated holes for them, and the chain length is 23 inches. It's standard. This is highly recommended for dump bodies that you're gonna put sideboards on, mainly because of the leverage of weight going past the pivot point. You don't want the dump body pulling out away from the truck. Although, despite the fact if you're not going to put sideboards on, it's still recommended to bolt these restraint chains on, mainly because this scissor hoist has a 60-degree pivot angle. So you want to make sure the piston rod doesn't overextend or extend too far to the point where the scissor hoist ends up hinging backwards and folding the wrong way down. So it's important to put the restraint chains on. Now, the way to do it, the best way to do it, despite the configuration of how the design is built, as you can see, piece of flat on the body it's staggered from the truck frame, so that when the dump body folds to the down position, this chain lays clear of any fixture, anything. The way I recommend to bolt it on is to have the chain on the body side on the inside, basically everything towards the inside. So the chain on this side, same with this chain on this side on the outside. And it's better just to have thread where it's not going to run into anything. So I run the thread away, basically. But yeah, that's how you bolt the restraint chains on here.